So War Tycoon has a lot of limiteds in the game, probably a bit more than they should reasonably have. However, some of these limiteds are absolutely busted and everybody uses them for this reason, while the others, they're kinda just left in the dust for no reason. So in this video guys, I'll be talking about some of the most unused limiteds in the game, which some of them actually deserve to be used. I don't understand why people don't use them. Anyway, let's just jump right into it. So first up, we're going to be starting off with the F47, and this one doesn't really make that much sense to me. The only reasonable idea that I have to why people don't use it is because there was only, I believe, 7.5 thousand copies of them, and they were for 2,500 Robux. This thing was pricey. However, it is absolutely busted in the game. It's got 9 air-to-air missiles, so it's just a proper air supremacy fighter. It's got 2 anti-ground missiles, which are kinda useful. It's got its stealth. However, most importantly, it has 2 flares along with this, so I don't think you can ever catch a F47 off guard and be able to land a single missile on it, because its defense measures, with all honesty, they're kinda just perfect. And you could also use the air-to-air missiles plus the surface missiles against ships, so you basically got 9 missiles which you can fire at a ship along with your cannon. So this thing is also just a great ship attacker. It's a good air-to-air, it's got the same turning speed as the F-22. This thing is honestly like an S-tier jet. The only issue which it really has is going to be the hitbox and the price when it comes to the parts. However, 11 parts is honestly not that much for how much this thing provides. Now next I'm moving into the Su-47 Berkut. Now this one I also don't really see why people don't use. The only really big reason which is possible here is that the hitbox on it is pretty bad. However, this thing kinda has every single weaponry in the game while also costing you 8 parts while also having a turning speed of the F-22. It's kinda got everything like the F-47, however a bit extra on top of that. And that's where the issue with this vehicle might start to come in. The more weapons that you have, the harder it is actually to use them, if you know what I mean, because you kinda just gotta pick between all of the keybinds and just decide what you want to shoot at the enemy. I understand that it can get a little confusing, but this thing is really good still. Now next up, moving into the TO-55, and this one on the other side, whew, I have a lot of things to say about it. It is not a good vehicle by any means. The flamethrower is practically useless in modern combat because nobody's gonna be standing still and letting you kill them for free. At least I haven't heard of a person that actually does this. If you guys got some friends that do let me know in the comment section down below. But at least I haven't met a person that lets me kill them with the flamethrower. So you're practically just left with a cannon and a machine gun, which this thing just has average stats more than anything else. I don't see why people would use this, and reasonably so. It is a forgotten vehicle, so it kinda makes sense. Now next I'm moving into the Tommy gun, and whenever this thing first came out, it's honestly just an average weapon that cannot really have attachments. Like, its stats are genuinely not that great. Just look at this. Its recoil is also pretty high. I kinda get why people don't use this, but it's also that the medal events are really harsh when it comes to getting things in this game, just simply because a lot of the time the challenge doesn't even work and you cannot claim your reward. Like, medal is so buggy, so it kinda makes sense why this thing isn't used at all. But it's also kinda bad as a weapon, I'm gonna be honest. Now next I'm moving into the Stryker CUAS. Okay, so this thing was pretty okay on release, at least from my experience, but now as the time goes, paying parts for this vehicle is a crime. First of all, the laser doesn't even work. They broke it after the update came out, so that really sucks. So you essentially just left with 8 anti-air missiles and grenade launchers, which is probably the worst weapon you could get out of really anything in the game, because the grenade launchers are just, they're not reliable. You can't really do much with them. You can only go up close, and aiming them is just so weird because of the velocity. So I kinda understand why people don't use this thing. Its air-to-air missile damage is also not that great with as well, so yeah, I think I see why you guys don't use this thing. Next up we got the E100. Now this thing is an underrated gem. It is an absolute beast. It is the best brawler in the game. It will always win every single fight. If you go up close against this thing, you're dead every single time. It will just two-shot you and it's over. There's nothing you can do about it. So I really don't recommend you guys to try to go up against the E100 if you do see it in a lobby, except the issue is, We don't see any, and my question is why? I believe the only reasonable idea to why people don't use this thing and why it isn't seen in servers is probably because the update that released it wasn't that great and nobody really played that update. Like, back then the game was actually kinda dead when they first released this limited, so not that many people probably got it, and now it's starting to rise in value, so getting it is starting to become a lot harder. Like, this thing's going for 1.1k medals already. That's kinda pricey, to be honest. Now, next up, moving into the Sherman Calliope. Okay, this thing might be one of the worst vehicles in the game, I'm not gonna lie to you guys. I reasonably understand why people don't use this. It's got a cannon and a machine gun, which is like terrible, and then on top of that you got like really bad agility, bad health, no smoke. The only thing which I would use these rockets for would be anti-ship combat, but those fights take so long anyway. Like, every rocket does like what, 140, 130 damage per hit, so you fight against the somewhat, it's gonna last so long, dude. But hey, it is kinda a counter, but I still see why people don't use it and prefer to use something like the TOS. Anyway, next up, moving into the Boxer CRV. So this vehicle is kinda awkward to use, I'm not gonna lie to you guys, because it's supposed to be like a brawler. It's got decent DPS, it's got good speed, except the speed I feel like kinda nerfs this thing because it leads it to flip over the terrain a lot, and also the speed is not really that great to have in the modern meta, especially as a ground vehicle, because you're gonna get stuck in terrain anyway. And it's also got APS, which actually seems to work. I feel like this is a pretty good vehicle, it's just that it's not very good at anti-air, to be honest with you. I've noticed that the bullet speed isn't so great, so when you're trying to aim for a plane, you're probably not gonna end up hitting your shots anyway. Now next I'm moving into the Bradley Linebacker, and I kinda understand why people don't use this thing once again. It's because it's got the Stinger missiles, which are reasonably not that great against air vehicles. You only got 4 of these, so on average you're only going to be hitting like 2 in most exchanges. If you're lucky, you're going to hit 3, which is normally still not enough to kill a plane in this game anyway. However, this thing is decent when it comes to killing tanks and ground vehicles, actually. If you manage to bait out most of the ranged weaponry and just go up close, then you might actually be able to defeat most tanks in the game. It's kind of like its hidden feature, which it's actually pretty good at. But either way, I would still prefer to use a normal Bradley because it's just better for situations awareness, and the missiles actually one-shot you anyway. But yeah, next I'm moving into the VCAC Meisto, and I have not seen this thing since the old meta. Like, it has been so long, and I don't really see why, because this thing's actually pretty good. It costs you no parts, it's amphibious, it's got smoke, it's got missiles that one-shot air vehicles. It's kind of perfect, with all honesty. I really like this vehicle, and I've been using it a lot lately. I feel like the only reason why people don't use this thing is that don't really know how good it is. Like, everyone thinks of it as an anti-tank, but in reality it's kinda an anti-air. I would not recommend you guys to be brawling with tanks with these 4 guided missiles. You're not gonna end up winning. But anyway, lastly, moving into the Seahawk. And this is really weird to say because the Seahawk used to absolutely dominate the meta. However, now I don't really see it around like ever. It is actually crazy to me because its 6 missiles are able to shred literally everything in the game. It's got good agility, it's got a good cannon, it's got the stealth. The only really big issues which I see with the Seahawk is that it doesn't have flares, its power cost is pretty high, and its hitbox is kind of massive. So these reasons are kind of valid for people to not really be able to use it. However, if you do actually get good at using the Seahawk, oh my god, you're gonna absolutely brutalize the servers. But anyway, for the time being, those were all the forgotten limiteds in the game. I do feel like some of them deserve to be used a lot more, especially things like the F-47. I have never seen this thing, but it's actually just a hidden gem. Same with the E-100. But yeah, I'll see you guys in the next video. Have a great rest of your day.